What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here bringing you another video. Today I'm bringing you a video on Power Rangers Super Ninja Steel Episode 4. This episode is called Making Waves, and the episode was okay. It wasn't necessarily a bad episode, because it definitely wasn't a bad episode, but it wasn't one that really stood out as being amazing, let's just say that much. So it was like kind of right in between, and that's perfectly fine. You know, it didn't do anything too crazy amazing, and it didn't do anything terrible. You know, it was just right there, and that's fine. So, as far as things go, this episode also introduced a new Zord and a new Megazord combination, and it had a couple other things that were special, which we'll get into in this episode that I do appreciate. For starters, the episode begins with us seeing that Summer Cove is having a big catch competition, which is where people from around Summer Cove can participate in catching fish, and whoever catches the biggest fish will win a trophy. And this trophy, in order for them to win, people have to pretty much catch the fish called Bruiser. Now, it's interesting because you usually think when it comes to something like that, they would actually catch whatever they discuss in the beginning of the episode. They actually don't do that, which is kind of different. And, you know, in the end, it doesn't really matter because of how the story works, which I appreciate that. So they have to catch this fish. Victor wants the trophy because if you remember in past episodes of the season, specifically during Ninja Steel, Victor was trying to get his 50th trophy or his 50th award or whatever, and he sees a trophy, he's like, I want that. The thing is that Victor and Monty don't really know how to fish, so they have to get to work on trying different things out. Then in the meantime, we end up seeing Haley's father, which is nice because it's always a cool thing to see the Rangers' parents because they're not always in the show. And the fact that we actually have 3 Rangers' parents in Power Rangers Ninja Steel is pretty... Actually 4 now that I think about it. Is that right? It's either... Yeah, no, everyone but Calvin. That's right. Everyone but Calvin has had their parent show up. At least one parent, which is very cool. I actually like that a lot. I didn't even realize that now that I think about it. Yep, every one of the Rangers has had at least one parent show up aside from Calvin. And whoever, you know, who knows? Maybe Calvin's parent might show up at a later episode. So that's cool. So we see Sarah's father. He is a marine biologist. And the thing is that he ends up making this drone that he uses that he'll use for the competition to try to catch this big fish called Bruiser. So this drone actually has a camera in it. Well, not exactly a camera, but it's sort of like a radar that can help him identify if there's a sea creature or something in the water. And so what happens is that he ends up using this drone with his remote control, and they end up finding something, which when the drone tries to catch it with the net, what happens is that it actually catches a metal object, and it like short circuits the drone, leaving it in a state where it can't be used temporarily. So Calvin, I think Preston, end up going to the sea to pick it out because the drone resurfaces, and so they have to go and repair it. So when they go and check on the drone, they see that there's metal objects in it, and they have to get it fixed, and they wonder what could that metal be. So they end up bringing it back to the auto shop location for the school to go about fixing it, the drone. So what we also end up seeing prior to this is that Sarah's mother is involved in this episode. So yes, Sarah's mother and Haley's father. Interesting. And apparently they're going to work together on fixing the drone and also go on a date. So yeah, the 2 Rangers' parents are looking to go on a date together. That's pretty interesting. And the thing is that, you know, they think it's sweet, but they're not really sure if they feel comfortable with their parents dating each other. Which I understand, and it makes a lot of sense. But they decide to, you know, go back to the auto shop location and try to fix up the drone. We end up seeing that Sarah and Haley talk to each other, and it sounds like they plan to screw up their parents' date that they're going to go on as a picnic. So they decided to inform their parents of information that the other parent likes, and they lie about it. So for example, Sarah informs her mother that Sarah informs her mother that Haley's father likes going on fast things that spin, and Haley's Haley informs her father that Sarah likes exotic foods like bugs and other things like that. So he ends up going to like a pet shop, I think, to get some bugs so that they can be fed, or just some exotic foods. And so they end up going on a date where we end up seeing, what do you call it? Haley's father giving Sarah's mother a fried grasshopper, which she ends up eating and hates it, and then she spits it out. And then we end up seeing Sarah's mother try to spin Haley's father on a like one of the gym rides that you spin around. I forget what it's called, but you know, those one of those things that you see when you're at a playground usually. And what happens is that he gets really dizzy and sick, and so they both just don't feel very well, and they're both very upset, and the date just doesn't go well. So things aren't looking good, and the two Rangers are happy because they were screwing up their parents' date. So then at that point what ends up happening is that we end up seeing the Rangers back in the base, and they end up identifying what the metal is, because the metal ends up being pieced together, and it turns out to be the logo for the Warrior Dome, for, you know, Odious and all the villains up in space. So they end up realizing that this must be a monster's doing. So they end up going to back where the beach was and trying to sneak behind a rock formation. They hide behind there, all four of them, and then the other two Rangers join in, Sarah and Haley, and they end up hearing a conversation that occurs between the monster for the episode, Doomwave, and the Kudabots. Now what happens is that Odious actually contacts Doomwave, basically telling him to get the machine fix that he had. And what happens is that we end up learning that this device is a tsunami machine, that they plan to use it to wipe out Summer Cove by creating a tsunami. And Badana appears, which is very cool because Badana was a character that was introduced in episode 1 of Super Ninja Steel, and in Japan she was a pretty commonly used character. And the thing was that it was weird how they decided, okay, episode 1 we're going to introduce this character, and then we're going to not use her for 2 episodes, even though she's considered like a major villain that's supposed to be in several episodes. So it sort of was weird, the fact that the past 2 episodes didn't have her and now they brought her back. But in this case, Badana does tell Doomwave to hurry up with the machine and get it to work. And then at that point, as Badana leaves, the Rangers come out of hiding and they go and morph and fight Doomwave. They end up doing several attacks against him. They actually go about destroying they actually end up having a big fight and destroying all the Kudabots with a ninja blast. And then what happens is that the Rangers try to stop Doomwave from getting his device, but Doomwave actually throws it into the ocean, and then he eventually retreats. At that point, the Rangers realize that they have to find a way to get to that device and destroy it before a tsunami is created by the device. So the Rangers then decide to go back to where the auto shop location is and try and see if Sarah and Haley's parents managed to fix the device. But the thing is that we end up seeing Mick throw the drone into a recycling bin, because Mick is informed by the two parents that they don't want to keep working together because they have such a terrible date and they don't feel like it makes sense to do it. But what happens is that they realize they need to get them back together, and there's several points brought up about, like, Mick even tries to create an analogy, like he typically does, about how breaking up a team and all that, because, you know, Sarah and Haley broke up their parents' team because they really worked well together. And, you know, he brings up the fact that, could you imagine if, you know, the Ranger team was broken up, you know, how would you feel? So in other words, they realize that they have to get them back together and do the right thing. And at that point, they decide that the only way they're going to do this is if they decide to change their form as Rangers and contact the two parents to show up in a specific location where they go about beginning to fix the machine. The Rangers are tell the parents to get the machine working and work together. They do it in a very nice way, and then we have this discussion where the parents realize that most likely the kids were trying to make it so that the parents didn't have a good date, and they were setting them up for a failure as a date, and that, you know, this was all a mistake. So in other words, you know, they realize the thing that the parents, that their kids have been doing, and it helps them understand things. Now, the Rangers don't realize that the parents discuss this, but it is something that is found out later. So then from there, after the two of them work on the machine, what happens is that the Rangers retrieve the drone and go towards the sea. Eventually, Doomwave comes out trying to stop the Rangers from bringing the drone into the water. Calvin and Preston end up actually trying to get over towards the water and actually get hit by a blast from Doomwave, but the Rangers do get up and go towards the sea to put it into the water. And then at that point, we end up seeing the Rangers continuing to fight Doomwave, and eventually they're trying to use a remote control to navigate the drone towards where the device is. Thing is that the remote control gets knocked over and the machine is being recharged, and eventually after the remote control is knocked, what happens is that the machine becomes operational and it starts to suck up all the water and begin to create a tsunami. But fortunately, Sarah and Haley decide that they will go after the remote control, and they go to pick up the remote and try and navigate it towards the device. So they end up doing that. Eventually they find where the device is, and using the drone's net, cast a net at the drone, stopping the machine from creating a tsunami, and they basically save the day. So then from there, the we end up seeing the other Rangers do a finishing attack. We actually see Brody and Levi do a finishing attack, and then Sarah and Haley do their own final attack, which is like a blast from their guns, and they end up using that to take out Doomwave, which he ends up getting destroyed in the ocean, and suddenly Doomwave is gigantified because Cosmo pressing the button allows that to happen. So then at that point, what happens is that they have to summon the Zords, and they end up contacting Mick, and at that point a new Zord star is made, and it is the Subsurfer Zord star. Now that is the new Zord star for the episode, and that's very cool to finally see that being introduced. The Rangers then end up seeing the Zord star thrown to them from a large distance, and it lands on the drone. The drone transforms into the Subsurfer Zord, and then at that point the Rangers receive the Zord star. Then, following this, what happens is that the Zord star transforms from its submarine mode into its surfer mode, because it's the Subsurfer Zord. So it turns into a surfer on a surfboard, and Levi ends up taking control of it and rides the waves and tries to take out Doomwave. The battle continues until eventually the other 5 Rangers summon the Ninja Steel Megazord. The Rangers use their Super Ninja Steel mode and combine with the Subsurfer Zord to create the Subsurfer Ninja Megazord, which is very cool. And then from there, the Rangers go about doing their finishing attack. Brody uses the Super Blaster, which personally it would have been better if Sarah or Haley or if both of them had actually used the Super Blaster, but for some reason they're going for the Red Ranger again, because Red Ranger is pretty much the standard, which I don't get, honestly, because they should, you know, if the episode is focused on certain characters, use those characters. I mean, the cockpit footage is original footage, so there's no reason why they can't use those characters. They just avoid it for some reason, and I just find it kind of silly. You know, it might just be that they're trying to match the Japanese a little bit more, but it's the cockpit stuff, which is the stuff that they really can try for new stuff, and I don't get it, you know what I mean? But it's fine. They do end up destroying Doomwave, and the Rangers rejoice. We end up also having this conversation that occurs between the 2 parents and the 4 other Rangers, and what happens is that Sarah and Haley meet up with their parents, and they try to apologize for everything that happened with their past dates, and they basically say, and the parents basically say, just stay away from us when we have future dates, and the 2 Rangers say, alright, we'll do that, and that they understand each other at that point, and they will continue to date. So that's interesting. Both of the parents will continue to date each other. You know, theoretically, it could be the situation where later into the season, Sarah and Haley are stepsisters. You know, that could actually happen, which would be very interesting just because like it creates a whole other perspective, because usually Ranger parents don't usually date. Just in general, the fact that we got Ranger parents used in this episode was a really nice touch, because it's a rare thing to see happen in a Power Rangers season. You know, there's plenty of seasons where you usually get one parent. The fact that we actually have parents for 5 of the 6 Rangers so far, and we might get a 6th Rangers parent, which would be Calvin, that would be really cool. You know, the fact that we can actually say that for once is rare, because it's just not a common thing in most seasons to get many parents. And even if they're not like super involved, the fact that they're even there is a nice touch. So that is great. Following this, we end up seeing that Victor and Monty try to make it out like they won that they end up catching Bruiser. The thing is that it's actually a big fish costume that Monty is wearing, and what happens is that the pirate person that actually announced this event ends up removing the costume, and they end up finding it's Monty, and Victor and Monty are have the trophy taken from them, and they have to run because the pirate has a sword, so they're scared. So everyone laughs, and the episode pretty much ends there. So overall, I think this episode was okay. Again, big things that I liked about this episode overall were new Zord, with the new mode for the Ninja Steel Megazord, which is great, so that's nice. And we probably won't be getting another Megazord or Megazord formation or anything till the fall, so keep that in mind if you're expecting another Megazord or anything along those lines. Not likely until then, but that's fine, and likely that will be the Blaze Megazord. Expect that in the fall we'll be getting the Blaze Megazord finally, the Megazord that we've actually gotten merchandise for, but we haven't gotten in the show yet. So that is something to note. We also got parent footage, which again, I keep on saying that that's important because it's a rare thing. You know, it's not something that happens in every season, and when it does happen, it's usually small, and I like the fact that they're going for something a little bit more interesting with the parents dating each other, because that could be kind of a nice thing to see where that actually develops into if they actually do end up getting married during the fall half of the season. You never know. It might not ever be addressed again, but it would be nice to see something like that happen in the fall where the Rangers do end up having their parents marry each other. That would be kind of nice. So we'll have to wait and see if that works out. I love some of your opinions. Did you guys enjoy this episode? I thought it was alright, as I said before. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe. I would love to hear you guys' opinions, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So until then, guys, I'm Crazy Samurai 71, and goodbye, guys.